Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Brothers Pod. I'm Victor,
And I'm Alex.
and shout out to our sponsor, Kingship Clothing. So, welcome back to the pod. Today we'll be covering a post-match chat after the PSV game last night, and it wasn't the greatest overall performance. I do think that we did struggle at times in that game, but I think there's a lot of positives to take out of it.
I think, of course, we did play our weaker squad. I think a lot of the players, youth players that I'm quite happy to see that have a shout in that squad today. I think the result, I don't think it really showed how we played. I think, despite, of course, it was a weaker side, I think that maybe we did play not maybe as expected as of course we would with that first squad. I think there was some positives to take from it, but there was also a lot of negatives, and I
For
think
sure.
there is definitely a lot to improve on, especially for the young players who have less experience.
But I think the negatives kind of start at the bottom of the pitch with the defenders, and the higher we go up the
Definitely.
pitch, the better the performance got.
Yeah,
To be fair, we start Robbo at centre half. It's the first time I've ever seen that. Maybe it's happened before after like a red card or something, but I'm not too sure. So that was probably the first time Robbo played at centre back. Quansah, poor first half. Second half, to be fair, I was quite impressed with Quansah. He was picking the ball up deep and trying to drive with it and make things happen. As funnily enough, he was one of the senior members of that squad, as everyone else was
Yeah.
youth players.
yeah,
So, it was really refreshing to see Quansah have a bit of a better performance. But at the back, it wasn't great overall. I think Bradley was okay, and Shimikas wasn't too great. Robbo, again, don't think he was too great. But as we move up the pitch, I think the performances got better, especially in midfield and up front. It was okay, but it's just the defence that really let us down.
I think there was a few standout mistakes that determined the match result in that match. I mean, certain times where we've lost possession under little amounts of pressure. A few passes we couldn't string together, very simple passes, some misplaced passes, a lot of long ball attempts I noticed in the first half that just didn't go very well. I think that could be a result of not having Trent playing in that match, but I think there is definitely a lot to take from that. I mean, Quansah, like you said, I think he has stepped up in that match compared to his recent results
Yeah.
this season. I think last season he was amazing. This season maybe not so much, but I think this game he played a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
I think also Endo in the midfield. He did specify the midfield was better, but I think Endo definitely didn't have a great
But then
performance.
I don't think Endo was that bad. I mean, the main one that we kind of criticised him for was the second goal where he didn't release it quite early enough. But I mean, I do think it was a foul on him, and there was a lot of fouls given after and before that were a lot softer that were giving us fouls, whereas this one was, for me, a clear push in the back. And, we'd be talking a lot differently if we went to PSV with our youth team and came back with a point.
Definitely, I do agree. But I think he is one of the senior players in that. He's probably
Yeah.
he got given the captain's armband, I'm pretty sure. After.
Yeah, at one point when Robbo
Yeah,
came
exactly.
off.
So I think that goes to show that he is a player of probably the most experience in that squad behind Robbo, and I think that is a fundamental error. But we'll probably talk about that later in.
Our player rate.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
for sure.
But I think a lot of what we have seen when Arne Slot came in, a lot of these little passes, 1-2s, moving about in the attacking third. I don't think we saw that as much this game.
I'd agree.
Maybe that is down to the player quality, but in essence, I'm not sure what could have went wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't kind of have the same patterns of play, but like you mentioned, it is probably the quality of the players that we put out. Also, of course, them training patterns, Schlot's working predominantly with the first team,
Of course.
that's been embedded into them. Whereas maybe some of these youth players that haven't had as much time with Schlot might find it a little bit more difficult to find that rhythm that Schlot really wants to
Yeah,
play with.
Of
And,
course.
it is the first time. Maybe not Accrington Stanley and maybe a few other games in the Cups. It's the first time we've really seen a rotated side to this point, and still going away to PSV and getting those 2 goals, I think it was quite impressive. It's just a shame the defence let us down.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I was quite surprised when I saw the 11, because obviously I was surprised to the extent of the rotated team that we had. I think I think we are focusing on the next game coming up.
Yeah,
But
definitely a key game in
yeah,
Bournemouth, that is.
so we are obviously resting a few
But you know,
players.
the fact we've done so well in the Champions League up to date is the reason why we was allowed to rotate
Of
as
course.
heavily as we did.
Of
And
course.
you know, that just comes from us putting in the solid performances over and over again.
Yes.
And you know, I think that it's really important to also give these young players minutes, because you know, you do find hidden gems. And you know, last season, if it wasn't for Bradley getting random minutes after Trent got injured, you know, we might have sold him out, put him on loan, and then we wouldn't have a quality right back backup. And you know, yesterday James McConnell taking the opportunity and showing himself. You know, Schlott mentioned that he's not now going to send him out on loan, which he was planning on, because
Yeah.
he's that good.
Yeah.
So you know, it really goes to show that you know, these young players do need minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I do think McConnell now is likely to get a few more mentions in, maybe
Cup games,
yeah,
FA Cup, Carabao
future,
Cup.
and maybe
I
eventually
mean,
in
we've
the
got
Premier
Plymouth
League.
coming up next weekend. Not next weekend, sorry. Yeah,
Near about.
yeah. So it won't be this weekend coming, it's the weekend after that. So Plymouth again will be a great opportunity to sort of rotate the young players in, play a few senior heads in there,
Yeah.
and you know, really get that opportunity for them young players. But yeah, I mean, again, it wasn't the greatest, but I think for the first game with the youth players, really, for Schlott, you know, there's of course a lot of room to improve, but you know, that goes for all of the young players. And the more opportunities they get, the higher likelihood that they end up, you know, regular fixtures in the Liverpool team.
Yeah, and I think that might have been a confidence booster for a lot of them youth players. But
Yeah, for sure.
I think obviously if we came with at least a point or 3 points, that confidence would have
Gone
been
even higher.
even
Yeah.
higher. But I think that was genuinely quite good for a lot of the players, because they have experienced a whole Champions League night, especially the lads that started that game. They must be over the moon of that. Starting in the Champions League, obviously, it wasn't really an important game for us at all, but I think that still means a lot to the players.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, some of these players getting their sort of like first minutes in the Champions League, some of them making their Liverpool debut overall. So you know, plenty of things to be excited in there for them. And yeah, I mean, if we start looking at some of the positives of the game, I thought Chiesa was fantastic.
Definitely.
What I was thinking during the game yesterday is Chiesa is the type of forward that we've been needing for a few years. I think he reminds me a lot of Xherdan Shaqiri, you know, coming on off the bench, not being okay with being that player that comes on and makes an impact. But every time he's on the pitch, he looks hungry.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with a good shot by him for the second goal, where Elliot swooped and scored that rebound.
Wins the penalty as well through sheer determination.
Exactly, and we can see by his dribbling, he had a decent shot for that. Obviously, it didn't go in, but it got us that goal. He got an assist. I mean, we can see qualities there. I mean, we know he's a good player based off his past, but he's really showing at Liverpool what he can really do, and I think he is a player we needed, especially for such a low price. He might be injury prone, but hence why he's not really a starter for us. He is that player, like you said, comes off the bench, has an impact, and I think he's doing great recently, and I think that I'm really excited for more to come from him.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's just the sort of player we've been missing, and you know, he could be that difference that pushes us to win the title. And you know, I see Chiesa having a big moment like Nunes at Brentford, just because he's so determined to make an impact every time he's on the pitch. And you know, he averages a lot of shots a game, which, you know, I like personally, because it's someone trying to make stuff happen. And in a team like yesterday, where, you know, you don't have the most sort of potent players on the pitch, having someone like Chiesa that will take that responsibility on himself is a great factor. And it's definitely beneficial to us.
I mean, he's a player of high quality. I think the more he plays, the more likely he is to find his place in the Premier League and in other competition, just in general for Liverpool. And I'm quite excited, like I've already said, for more to come from him. And yeah, there's a lot of positives to take from him. And in general.
Gakpo as well. Brilliant
Definitely.
for the 50 minutes or so he was on the pitch, coming back to his old team and scoring a goal at their ground. So all good on Gakpo's side. I would have liked to maybe keep him on the pitch a bit longer. You know, Schlott was chasing the game. We were 3-2 down, and he kind of subs Gakpo off, puts Chiesa on the left, Elliott on the right, Dan stays up front, and then we do kind of have again a bit of a less potent attack,
Yeah.
but. I can totally understand why he did it with Bournemouth looking up ahead at Saturday. It was definitely not the worst decision he could make, but I'd argue that maybe to try chase the game and win it, that it would have been beneficial for him to stay on.
I mean, I think maybe I was a bit surprised to see him come off so early, especially in the game where we didn't have the lead. So I think maybe if he did stay on for a little bit longer, he might have had a more impact to be able to rescue a point at least. But obviously, Schlott knew that it didn't really make a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously, and I agree with that. And like you said, the Bournemouth game ahead is a lot more important for our season.
Yeah, it's a massive game for our season.
Genuinely massive.
It's a must-win for sure, and going away to Bournemouth is never easy.
Exactly.
And with the team they've managed to build, and Iriola as the manager, he's really put great foundations down, so that's going to be a tough game. But just a bit more on PSV themselves, to be fair, I do think they were quite good on the night.
Definitely.
They really took their momentum when they had it. They took advantage of it. In the second half, there was large periods of times where they kept the ball really well and kept us away from it. They dealt with our counters really well, and overall a good performance for them.
I mean, I'll be honest. I was quite surprised by the performance because I knew PSV was a good side, but not to that not to them capabilities. I mean, the way they were able to keep the ball away from us at some points, and their goals were quite great as well. So I think fair play to them. Big props to PSV. Quite impressed, and I think they really showed that underdogs can really make a difference. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. But I mean, going into the game, I don't really think they were the underdogs. If you look at the starting 11s, they've got well-established European level players, and we came in there with a bunch of kids. So, I mean, on paper, as the teams, as the names alone, we were the favourites. But looking at the teams on the night, they were the better team and had the better players on the pitch. And especially when we rotated out sort of Gakpo and Robbo in the second half, and then left the youngsters alone, they were definitely the better team. Yeah,
of course. I mean, with the fixture list, when you see PSV, you do think it's more of an easy game, and of course, but I don't think anybody was really expecting such a rotated squad.
I think the rotated squad we could have expected, but I don't think we could have expected to concede 3 goals. And I think that's the main concern, because we want to be able to build 2 teams that are capable of defending and attacking and being able to, keep clean sheets, not only the first team, but the backup team that gets rotated in and out. Of course, it's a lot harder. These players have less time played together. They don't have the same sort of understanding of each other. And obviously, Virgil not being at the back and commanding everyone makes a massive difference as well. But yeah, I mean, the main concern for me is just the goals conceded. I don't really have much of a problem with anything else that happened in the game. It kind of went as expected, especially with the game status and them having a lead. Like, I could see that they would keep the ball and keep it away from us, and use that momentum going into half time, a goal up.
Yeah, I do definitely agree. I mean, like we said, obviously youth squad, and that is generally the best way that Liverpool can maybe even win future titles in future seasons. The more we build up our second squad, the more we build up that quality, more experience, the more chances of us being able to. Of course, the Champions League now has more fixtures. We're going to be playing more matches throughout the season, so having a side of maybe having 2 teams that are of high quality, I mean, that is very important coming up now. So enough said that. The fact that it is quite important to be playing these rotated teams, maybe even more often. We should be taking advantage of these cup competitions, these Champions League fixtures that mean little to us, and I do understand the reasoning behind Schlott's decision there.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned, developing and growing these young players can be the fundamentals for winning titles in the future. And, we've seen it a lot of times. Players like Curtis Jones, Of course, he didn't have an impact on the title winning side, but if we want to talk about homegrown impacts, Trent's the best example. And, you know, he only got an opportunity because Nathaniel Klein was injured.
Yeah.
And we thought it was the end of the world because Klein was injured.
Yeah.
Just to discover the best right back in the world. So,
Yeah.
you know, it is these circumstances that, you know, open up doors and opportunities to these young players to become key parts of the first team.
Yeah, and that is why I was quite excited to see Bradley go on a very good run of form. I was excited to see his amazing game against Real Madrid being played, these key moments, and I think that is genuinely the fundamental of building up these great talents that can make a difference. Like you said, Trent, and we're seeing it a lot with Harvey Elliott. Curtis Jones is only improving.
But again, because a lot of people don't understand this, what you need to win the title is a squad. What Arsenal fans will say to us is, you know, we have a better starting 11 when everyone's fit. Brilliant, but give one of them an injury and all of a sudden you've fallen off ridiculously hard. And, you know, you look at, they've had injuries to Saka, and now their front three is Jesus got an ACL as well. So it's that Ethan Nwerny, I'm not sure how to say his name, I definitely butchered that. But, you know, he's there. You've got Havertz starting in the 9 again. You can't rely on him for goals. You've got Martinelli on the left, which isn't the most efficient, and all of a sudden there's no goals in the team. And you know, you saw what happened when Odegaard came out of the Arsenal squad at the start of the season. It was very impactful for them. Whereas, you know, for us, I do believe that we genuinely have the best squad in the Premier League. If you look every position over the pitch, we have 2 players that are of a high quality. Even when Alisson gets injured at the start of the season, Kelleher comes in and it's like he's not missed a beat. And that's really important for title winning sides, because you can't rely on everyone to be fit for the full 38 games. So having players like Chiesa, you look at the left wing, we've got the battle between Gakpo and Diaz. Of course, Diaz plays in the 9 because Jota's injuries, but then again in the 9, once Jota's fit, Nunes and Jota are the competition, and when Jota's not fit, it's Diaz and Nunes. And you know, in midfield you've got Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch as our starting 3, and then just behind them you've got Endo, you've got Jones, you've got
Elliott.
Harvey Elliott, and again full-backs you've got Shimikas and Bradley that come in, Quansah, Gomez, Kelleher. So it's really key to build kind of 2 11s, so that at any point a player drops out, you're able to replace them.
I mean, we've seen it with Man City's dominance over the Premier League in the past few years.
And why was that? Because they had a squad. They had 2 sets of 50 million full-backs, centre-halves. They had 4 centre-halves worth 50 mil. Midfield, they had stacked with midfielders and attackers. I don't even need to say anymore. And that is the formula to winning these league titles.
I mean, we can see it that Pep's built an absolutely outstanding squad, and now we can see they have a bit less of that what's the rotation. Yeah.
Because look, the best example of this is before Omar Marmoush came to City. You know, they sell Alvarez in the summer, and they go into this season with just Haaland.
1 striker,
So Haaland's playing 90 minutes every week, on or off of form. He's starting. So, you know, psychologically not having competition isn't good, because when you have competition, your performance elevates. Look at Diaz and Gakpo. As soon as Gakpo became a serious contender on that left wing, Diaz's performance went up. He started scoring a lot more goals. You know, he's our 2nd top scorer in the Premier League this season, and you know, a key part of that was the competition from Gakpo. So it's really important to have 2 players in each position that can offer competition and rotation. And you know, even if Haaland's struggling with a little niggle, little injury, you know, he can't rotate him out. And you know, who are you going to start up front at City if it's not Haaland?
Yeah, and I think that's what we prioritised when we had that rebuild last year, and I think that might be what City need to do that rebuild, because obviously now that Rodri's injured, they don't have that kind of rotation as they used to have, and that is something that we have, and that's why we have been able to take over this season in the Premier League
and be competitive on all fronts as well. You know, we're still in the FA Cup, of course. We have Accrington Stanley. You'd expect us to progress, but you know, Carabao Cup, semi-final with Spurs next week. So you know, the reason we've been able to be so competitive across all 4 competitions is because we have a great squad, and we've been able to use it repeatedly at different moments to get results that we really needed.
Yeah, I definitely do agree, and I think that again, our squad generally has allowed us to get so far this season, and maybe the Tottenham, the Carabao Cup draw, we still have them to play them at Anfield, and I think we have all the right to be able to turn that game over.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with Tottenham being so poor this season compared to maybe other seasons. So I think, definitely a lot to look forward to, and generally also the Champions League. I mean, what does Champions League hold next for us? We have...
So it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like... I think PSG are the toughest opponents we can get. There was also
PSG, Brest, Benfica, or Monaco. They were the 4.
So, I mean, even worst case scenario, we get PSG. I can see us very comfortably beating them.
Yes, we're full fit.
I know
11.
City struggled there, but, I do think that the fact they managed to still go 2 goals up where they're in such poor form.
Yeah.
I think if we go 2 goals up at Paris, I don't see us throwing that lead away the same way City did.
I agree.
And that's worst case scenario for us.
Yeah, of course, and I think that maybe that would be the most realistic scenario, seeing them probably win their fixtures in the playoffs, I believe. And even if, like I said, over 2 legs, I think over 2 legs, there's not many teams in the world that could beat us right now over 2 legs, especially in the Champions League. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Against Barcelona, we can pull that off.
I think the only team that I still get a bit of PTSD about is definitely Real Madrid.
Definitely.
I know they've not been the best at the first half of the season, but the last month or so they've really been picking up the pace, and just the quality of their players is enough to definitely give us a scare. But I think psychologically that win at Anfield, the 2-0, was definitely very important for us.
And I do think Real Madrid, I mean, Mbappe is starting to pick up his, settling into squad, picking up his pace, and I think that in itself is scary. I mean,
well, that bracket that Real Madrid's in, because they didn't finish top 8, is Bayern, Real Madrid, City. So we know that a few of the big boys are going to be out at this stage, so that obviously makes it easier for us.
I think that is what the new Champions League phase has changed. I mean, the fact that there is a lot more teams who have struggled in the league phase throughout the 8 games, and now a lot of big teams might be eliminated. And considering that's a very strong point for us, because considering we did so well in that league phase, now chances are we're going to play a bit of a weaker opponent, as opposed to, like you said, a big boy who's likely to get eliminated so early in the competition. And I think that's very important for us.
Yeah, for sure. And, the best we can pray for is someone knocks Real Madrid before we have to play them.
Definitely.
And on the day that Madrid are out of the Champions League, if it happens, is the day I'll say we're going to win it. But obviously there's a long way ahead of that, so we'll have to wait and see with that one. But, for sure. I mean, the new format myself, I actually really enjoy it. What do you think?
I think it's a bit different. I think at first I had concerns with the amount of games being played. I know it is 2 more, but that 2 more does have a difference when having a tighter schedule in maybe a lot of difficult games. Then, like we've seen there, we had a very difficult run of games that we handled quite well, but it is very easy to lose momentum. Because even a little loss, maybe if we start a first squad against a lower side in the Champions League, and a little loss might turn over the momentum in the season. But I think in this case it has helped our momentum, because we've picked up difficult wins like Real Madrid 2-0,
Bayern Leverkusen 4-0.
4-0, exactly. I mean, even AC Milan, these games have helped us pick over the momentum that has allowed us to transfer it into the Premier League. And
it's also been a platform for Slot to show what he's about. What everyone was talking about at the start of the season, Liverpool going to be this, Liverpool going to be that, and it's not true. And we knew it from the start that we wouldn't be as bad as everyone thinks. But him being able to put them sort of performances in at the biggest stage has shown to the rest of the world what they should have already known, and that is that Liverpool are here, and Liverpool are here to conquer.
Of course.
And as long as Slot is there, and as long as we've got this good group of lads, I don't see what is going to stop us from conquering everything. And, Premier League, 12 points ahead. 9 points ahead, is it, with a game in hand? Something like that. Champions League, top of the group. in the semi-final Carabao Cup, not quarter-final, at some stage in the FA Cup. So, I don't see why we can't go on and win these trophies.
And I do think there is a reason why Liverpool have headhunted Arne Slot out of all managers, because when I first heard about the news, I wasn't exactly too sure of what he was capable of, what his style of play is, not much about him really. So I think the fact that we have headhunted him so heavily, there is a reason for that.
Yeah, for sure. And, Liverpool have some of the best recruiting in the country, and, maybe some transfers like Nunes haven't quite worked out. But if you look overall, we do tend to make the right decisions, and this was definitely the right decision to bring Slot in. And I think what he offers is the best of Klopp, which is his pressing, and the best of Guardiola, which is his control. And, we might not see the control at its best yet because Slot's only been here a little while, but I promise you, give it a year or two and that control will be a lot more prominent, and you'll be able to see it in games and hang your hat on it. So I think it is still definitely a work in progress, but the fact that we're so far ahead of schedule, it is really exciting to see that Slot could do that with this short time, and giving him more time, it opens your mind to the question of, so where's the ceiling for this Liverpool team?
Of course.
With the sort of ages that the players are at, that ceiling can be anything. So it is definitely a really exciting time to be a Liverpool fan, and I think the only sort of thing that can kind of come between that is the contract situation.
I agree. I think that Arne Slot, there was big concerns at the start in general regarding of his ability to perform in the big matches where we have a bit more of a important match. Will he be able to, guide the team through it? And I think he's shown that amazingly, and I think that it goes to show that Klopp has been replaced quite well, and I think there is a reason for his replacement to, be Arne Slot. And generally, I think he's over-exceeding expectations.
For sure.
Quite a lot.
For sure, and that's why it's key that Liverpool and FSG get these contracts done, because we want this to continue for years going forward, and not have to leave that pressure of replacing 3 of our best players in one window. I do see Virgil signing a contract, but the other 2 I'm not too sure. And FSG, if you are listening, just give Mo his dough. That's all I'm going to say, because he's the best player in the world, and we need Mo Salah at Liverpool until he's retired, because he's going to keep putting up these numbers. So give Mo his dough.
I agree, definitely. Same can be said with Virgil van Dijk. Wow, his commandment on the team, his impact on the team, everything about him, his leadership is genuinely amazing, and I think he's a very key asset to hold on to.
And Trent especially.
Yeah,
Trent is an £100 million footballer, and the fact that he could be going to Real Madrid on a free is ridiculous. How we could ever let this happen as a club.
Of course, and I think with these contracts being able to be sorted, that the potential is there's no limit to it. I genuinely believe that.
And think as well, what sort of morale boost would it give these lads coming into the latter stages of the season, fighting for the title, finding out that 3 of our best players are here to stay?
Of course.
That momentum and psychological boost it will give the players around them will be great. But playing devil's advocate, do you think that the players are trying harder because they're working for the contract? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Maybe you can see that with Mo.
Yeah.
I think there's times where you got to ask the question, is Trent playing to be able to impress Real Madrid, or is he playing to stay at Liverpool? And I think it would break my heart if Trent went to Real Madrid. I think, obviously,
especially with the history we have with them in the Champions League.
Of course. We can consider that our European rival, Real Madrid. So the fact that he can go there after breaking our hearts, after some interesting nights, it would genuinely be such a shame to see that happen.
Yeah, and it just summarise everything that I think is the problem with FSG. We've had multiple years where FSG could have really made a push to upgrade the squad and push it even further. We win the league in 1920, and I'm pretty sure we brought in Harvey Elliott and Sepp van den Berg. Now, don't get me wrong, So yeah, the 1920 season, we win the the Premier League. In comes Harvey Elliott and Sepp van den Berg, and Elliott turned out to be a great, investment into the future. But the season we had after that, all our centre halves were injured, and we end up bringing Ben Davies from Preston, who was never Liverpool level, and Ozan Kabak from Schalke. So that's not the sort of ambitious ownerships that you need to be able to go and achieve these things regularly. And if you look at the best sides that have won these big titles, after they win it, they go and bring in even more quality to make sure they win it next year. Whereas what Liverpool do is not do that at all, and then it makes it a lot harder when every other team improves.
I mean, this literally loops back to a conversation we had before about the rotation side of things. I mean, yeah, back then, not enough rotation, and we can definitely feel that with the amount of injuries. I mean, after a season where we've won...
I think FSG have been lucky because the youth players have gone on to be great. And of course, that is a part of FSG doing their job, setting up the academies right and all of that stuff. But in regards of them making transfers, it's not been good enough for years now.
I mean, we can definitely see that it had an impact on us, to not having enough rotation. And I mean, coming off the fact that we won the Champions League, won the Premier League, I mean, you'd expect us to carry on that reign into the next season, the season after that, and we didn't do that the season after, and it's surprising.
We bring Luis Diaz in the January of 22. Look at the difference it made.
Of course.
We almost won the quadruple that season, and Diaz was a key factor because it was another body, and that was proactive thinking, and it helped us. Of course, it was a Mane replacement because he left at the end of the season, but so yeah, I mean, FSG haven't been the types of owners that we really need to advance forward, and I would probably like to see them sell the club, and I think that's a good note to end this video, really.
Yeah,
so
agree.
Thank you everyone for watching.
You.
It's been a pleasure, and we'd love to see you back on the Red Brothers channel.
Of course, thank you.